So for anyone who saw my video at the start of the year, you'll know that I set some goals. I was excited about these goals and I had very high hopes for these goals. But here we are. And from the title of the video, you've probably guessed I'm not exactly off to a flying start to 2024. But it's not all bad. There are lessons learned and light at the end of the tunnel, so stick around and let me explain my very eye-opening and very humbling start to 2024. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for being here once again. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mel and this is my YouTube channel where I'm documenting my health journey with a specific focus on weight loss in the hopes that it will help other people out there on similar journeys. So I've been a bit quiet on here recently and I didn't upload my last video when I said I would, and for that I genuinely do apologize. But I got to a point where I just had to hit pause, and I've been in a bit of a pause mode for the last month and a half or so, just reevaluating everything. Why, you ask? Well, in my last few videos, I was talking a lot about how I lost my first 10 kilos and then I lost a lot of motivation to keep going. I've managed to lose 15 kilos in total, but I haven't really lost any significant weight since about August last year. And I was going through my usual bag of tricks of resetting on my health journey, reconnecting with my why, and getting some kind of routine back in place. But they didn't quite do the job. And I've never been in this position before. I have never been in a place where my tried and tested methods of getting back on track haven't worked in the way that I expected. So instead of feeling energized and motivated and just determined to give it everything I had, I felt unmotivated and anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, tired, sometimes even exhausted despite getting enough sleep. I felt constantly frustrated at myself. I was irritable and I just felt heavy and slow and foggy. And if I'm being completely honest, I'd been feeling this way for a while and it was getting progressively more apparent, but I seemed to be on some kind of autopilot and just kept trudging on as if it was normal, until it finally dawned on me that I actually felt like a pile of shit more often than not. But when I realized this, rather than throw caution to the wind and give up and put it in the too hard basket, I acknowledged the feelings of frustration and overwhelm, and I gave myself some space and time to really think about it. I know one of my weaknesses or areas for improvement is just immediately calling it when it all gets too hard. No. But I wanted to, and I needed to handle things differently this time. I wanted to reflect on what had gone wrong and calmly evaluate rather than panic and add more goals to the list or go down a spiral of self-criticism, which I'm really good at. So this time I made a decision to press pause on everything. And what I mean by pause is I stopped trying to strive for all my goals all at once. And I stopped trying to live a picture perfect life of what I think someone who has their shit together looks like. I slowed down and just did the bare minimum, which was exercising when I could, eating relatively well, and getting as much good quality sleep as I could, because without the bare minimum, I would have crumbled. And honestly, I'm just not due for a full-on crumble right now. So I slowed down. And I stopped committing to so many things, even just my own to-do list in my head. I read my book more, I aimed for slow, relaxed mornings, and I just stopped trying to be so bloody productive all the time. Now, during this pause, I've also spent some time learning about the impacts of chronic stress on physical health, emotional health, mental health, all the healths. Now, let me be clear what I mean by stress, because I'm applying the term quite broadly in this video. What I am not referring to is the kind of stress you get when something genuinely stressful happens, or the kind of stress you need to keep you alive. The best way to describe what I mean is ick. The sticky, icky shit in my life that holds me back and makes me feel generally quite average a lot of the time. The ickiness that keeps me stuck in what feels like an almost constant state of fight or flight. And I also refer to it as chronic low-level stress, which is the term that I've just started using, and I have no idea if that's actually a thing. But the reason I call it that is because it's not necessarily obvious. It's more like this low-level, sinister, consistent stress that just kind of sneaks into your life nice and gradually, and then it gets comfortable there and stays around to the point where we think it's just normal. And then a little more finds its way in and makes itself at home And slowly but surely, our shoulders and our soles get gradually wearier. It's actually really grim. So then, equipped with my very basic understanding of stress, I looked at my life through the lens of my learnings. And I realized I had way too many goals to begin with. And not only that, but I'd also forgotten to include one of my bigger goals on that list, which was just this YouTube channel and growing it and spending more time on it. So I was just trying to squeeze it in, and it's not something you squeeze in. It takes a lot of time and energy. So that was beginning to stress me out. I also realized my mind was just going wild, and I was going around in circles on a daily basis and just overthinking everything all the time. I realized I often overcommitted and made these really long to-do lists for myself every day, and they were unreasonable, but I would still be really annoyed at myself and feel really guilty if I didn't get it done. I had constant feelings of running out of time every day, but at the same time being too tired and too burned out to actually do anything. I also noticed I was anxious more often than not. My ability to remember things and concentrate was diminishing. I felt overwhelmed a lot of the time. I became frustrated and irritable.
It's a bad time, Bob.
And I often felt really sluggish and bloated. And I was really struggling to lose weight in the general sense, but also specifically around my belly. So in my mind, I figured I was probably a little bit stressed. And even though it kind of seems quite obvious now, I'd always told myself I'm not stressed, because I had this picture of what stress looks like and what we see stress kind of depicted as in movies and even just on social media. And I was like, that's not me. I don't live that kind of life. I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed. I mean, every single symptom I have in my body would indicate that I am, but no, I'm not stressed. So eventually, I realized that I probably am. And then I had one of my lovely little epiphanies, which, let me tell you, are like explosions of knowledge and self-awareness. And I came to understand that not only would reaching my goals without addressing these icky, stressful things be 100 times harder, especially because unmanaged stress can be a big hindrance to weight loss, but I also realized that my success wouldn't last, and I still wouldn't actually feel good. I would tick off all my goals and wonder why I still felt really average, albeit a bit thinner and a bit fitter. So I knew I had some work to do, and this work is currently still happening, and I imagine it will go on for quite a long time. This topic of stress has become a whole new chapter in my health journey, and whilst I'm still very much in the middle of it all, I wanted to share some of the changes I've already made to combat the ick in my life. So what have I changed so far? I have drastically cut down on social media. I've removed the YouTube Studio app from my phone, and for those of you who don't know, that's like the back end of YouTube where you can see all the real-time stats for your channel. So now I can't see any stats around likes or views or subscribers or anything like that unless I actually go onto the computer and log into YouTube Studio. I also unsubscribe from all my YouTube comment notifications, which means I don't know I have comments unless I, again, go into YouTube on the computer. So I've really minimized my exposure to the constant notifications, but also controlled my access to some extent. I've been working on trying to build a really strong sleep schedule, and notably this sleep schedule is based on what I feel I need, not what everyone else thinks a human being needs. This is a big one. I'm having a break from alcohol, and at the time of filming, I am 35 days sober. I've been factoring in more rest and reminding myself that rest is not a treat or something to be earned, but instead a necessary part of healing and health. I've been consuming very limited processed sugar and processed foods in general. I'm making sure I'm hydrated enough. I've cut back a lot on caffeine. I'm usually pretty focused on nutrition anyway, but what I've done recently is focus more on nourishing, and I'm aiming to eat 30 different plants per week, which has been surprisingly easy so far. I also did a complete rejig of my goals for 2024. I sat in a cafe on Saturday morning a few weeks ago, and I put my headphones in and I put a giant line, a big cross, through all my cold hard goals for 2024, and instead I journaled about what I wanted for myself from this year. There's no strict parameters or times per week that things must be done. It was just a reflection of things that I want for myself and a reminder of what I'm working toward. So no more intense black and white goals for me. I'm also regularly seeing a physio to help manage my niggly little injuries in my hands, which I know I've spoken about before, but the difference is now I'm just throwing everything I have at it. I'm 100% committing to it until the issues resolve, because that will make me feel better in and of itself, but it will also allow me to get back into yoga, which I know I harp on about like every single video, but it's just so important to me. And I think yoga is going to be pretty key in my stress-less journey. From both a physical and a mental perspective, because of the mindfulness, the breathing, the focus on just being on your mat and slowing down, and the physical stretching and releasing of those icky, gross emotions that just need to get out of the body. I find that yoga is really helpful for that. And last but not least, I have an appointment booked in later on this month with a doctor who specializes in nutrition as preventative medicine, which is a topic I am becoming more and more passionate about. And I'm really excited for that appointment, and I'm really interested in what she has to say and her perspective. And I've heard a lot about functional testing, which from my incredibly limited understanding is like a bit more of a deep dive into how your body is performing than a typical round of blood tests. So I'm hoping I can do some of that as well, because all my blood tests, my usual routine blood tests, come back saying everything is fine, which on one hand is fantastic and I'm really grateful for that. But on the other hand, it doesn't explain why I feel so average. So I know all of that is a lot, but this chapter on combating chronic low-level stress feels like it's going to be a really big part of my weight loss journey and my health journey overall. And it's important to me that I'm honest and transparent with you all about where I'm at, and also demonstrating how non-linear this process really is. I'm also only just scraping the surface of this topic, and I think it's going to take a lot of learning and practicing and trial and error to work through this. And I think it's going to get really uncomfortable, and boundaries and beliefs will be pushed and broken and rebuilt, but I have a feeling it'll all be worth it. So after saying all of that, where does that leave me now? Well, I very recently come out of my pause mode, and I am easing back into some semblance of a routine while I focus on what I want for myself from 2024 without any strict timeframes or rules. It's not a very traditional method of achieving goals, I acknowledge that, but I clearly need to shuffle things around because what I have been doing is not working. And rather than trying to push and force this, I guess, more common way of goal setting and achieving things, I have stopped and slowed down and reflected and decided to meet myself where I am and adapt to what I need rather than what looks good on paper or what most people do. And that brings me to the hot tip of this video, which is to do a mini audit on your life and look for some of those icks that you can clear out of the way that will allow you to propel yourself to your next stage of success, whatever that looks like for you. It might not be a particularly comfortable activity, but if you know deep down that you do not feel as good as you could, then this will definitely be a worthwhile activity for you. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate you all being here for watching, liking, subscribing, all of those things, and being so patient with me while I took a little unexpected break from YouTube. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. If you've had some kind of similar experience to me where you've had to kind of look at your whole life or the whole way you're approaching your health journey and how that worked for you, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to know, and I'm sure everyone else would as well. So if you're comfortable sharing, please pop it in the comments. And I can't wait to keep you all posted with how this new approach is working for me. On that note, I hope you all have a fabulous week, and I will see you for the next video.